Brussels, Belgium, autumn 1915. The city was quiet, its cobblestone streets shadowed beneath the heavy boots of German occupation. The First World War raged across Europe, but here, in the heart of a subdued capital, an English nurse named Edith Cavell moved with quiet determination. She was 49 years old, stern yet compassionate, with a calm authority that made her a pillar of the nursing profession. To her patients, she was a guardian of mercy, a woman who treated soldiers and civilians alike, no matter their nationality or uniform. But beneath her composed demeanor burned an unshakable moral conviction, the belief that her duty was to save lives, not to serve politics or fear. Edith Cavell had come to Brussels years before the war to establish Belgium's first nursing school. She was a pioneer, determined to elevate nursing into a respected profession, instilling discipline, compassion, and skill into her students. But when German forces swept into the country in 1914, her hospital became a refuge not just for the wounded, but for those hunted by war. In secret, she began aiding British and French soldiers trapped behind enemy lines, providing shelter, medical care, and most dangerously safe passage to neutral Holland. Her quiet hospital became part of an underground network, and in the dim glow of its gas lamps, Edith Cavell defied one of the most formidable armies in the world. Each act of assistance carried the weight of death. She knew the Germans had declared such aid to be treason. Yet night after night, she helped soldiers escape. Many owed their lives to her unwavering courage, her soft voice urging them to be still as German patrols marched nearby. In those shadowed corridors, Edith Cavell became more than a nurse. She became a beacon of defiance, a woman who chose morality over obedience to a ruthless occupier. By the summer of 1915, whispers of her activities had reached German authorities. They had long suspected that an escape network was operating in Brussels, and eventually a captured member betrayed her name. On August 5th, Edith Cavell was arrested and taken to St. Gilles prison. For weeks, she endured interrogations, facing the icy authority of military officers. She did not deny her role. In fact, with remarkable composure, she confessed to helping over 200 Allied soldiers escape. She made no attempt to save herself. She was a nurse, she said, and her duty was to help those in need, regardless of the risks. Her calm defiance stunned her captors, but the German military, determined to set an example, resolved to make her a symbol. Edith Cavell was charged with treason against the German state, a crime punishable by death. Diplomats from Britain, the United States, and Spain pleaded for her life, arguing that executing a woman, a nurse, would only spark outrage. Yet the German command was unmoved. Her trial was swift and her sentence grim. As the autumn nights grew colder, Edith Cavell sat in her prison cell, awaiting her fate. Outside, the world was unaware of the storm that was about to erupt in her name. The night of October 11th, 1915 fell heavy over Brussels. Within the stone walls of St. Gilles prison, the air was thick with silence, broken only by the distant march of soldiers on cobblestones. In a small, dimly lit cell, Edith Cavell prepared herself with a composure that stunned even her guards. She had been told that morning that her sentence would be carried out at dawn. There were no tears, no pleas for mercy, only a calm acceptance that reflected the depth of her faith. A chaplain, Reverend H. Sterling Gahan, was allowed to visit her that night. He would later recall her serenity, how she greeted him with a steady voice and a gentle smile. "I have no fear nor shrinking," she said softly. "I have seen death so often that it is not strange to me." She spoke of her life's work, of the hundreds of men who had slipped through the grasp of war because of her defiance, and of her unwavering belief that patriotism was not enough. "I must have no hatred or bitterness toward anyone," she told him. Even in the shadow of execution, her words carried grace. Just after 2 o'clock in the morning, she was escorted from her cell, flanked by German guards whose expressions betrayed an ease. She walked without hesitation, her head high, through the cold corridors and out into the chill of the October night. Lanterns flickered against the stone walls of the International, the military firing. Range where she would meet her end. A firing squad of German soldiers stood ready, their rifles gleaming under the pale light. Edith Cavell refused a blindfold. She looked straight ahead, her face serene as she stood before the wall. At precisely 2:57 a.m., the order was given. A volley of shots rang out, echoing through the stillness of Brussels. Edith Cavell crumpled to the ground, her lifeless body falling as silently as she had lived, with dignity, courage, and unyielding conviction. The execution of a nurse-healer, a woman whose only crime was saving lives, sent shockwaves through the world. Newspapers in London, Paris, and New York carried her story, branding her death a barbaric act. Her name became a rallying cry for the Allied cause, inspiring soldiers and civilians alike. Recruitment surged as men enlisted in outrage over her killing. In neutral countries, Germany's reputation suffered irreparable damage, and its image as a civilized nation was shattered. Yet, beyond the politics and propaganda, Edith Cavell's story endured as something more profound. She became a symbol of quiet resistance, of moral courage in the face of tyranny. Statues were raised in her honor, and her name etched into memorials across continents. In Belgium, where she had once walked the cobblestone streets unnoticed, she was forever remembered as a national heroine. More than a century later, her words still echo, challenging us to rise above hatred even in times of unthinkable cruelty. Edith Cavell's life and death remind us that true heroism is often silent, born not from hatred of an enemy, but from love for humanity itself.